Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth edition of Imagine This Women's Film Festival. My name is Susie Francois, and I'm the co-founder of Imagine This Women's Film Festival. Thank you so much for joining us today. Right now, we're going to go around and we're going to have everyone introduce themselves. Who would like to go first?
All right. I'm Christy Ferris. I am the director for Amy Victoria, and it's a lovely film that I'll let one of the producers say when they have their turn.
And Shira, let me know if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Okay, it's Shira.
Shira.
And I'm the director of the film In My Eyes. I'm also an actress, and I'm also the actress in the film. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Thank you for sharing your film with us. And let's see, Mika, I think Mikhail.
Oh, hi, Susie. Thank you. My name is Mikhail Chaudhary. I'm one of the producers and co-writer of the film Amy Victoria that Christy so eloquently introduced there. Thank you very much to yourself, Susie, and to the film festival for selecting us. Really an honor to be there. I apologize in advance for background noise. There is a baby in the background.
That's okay.
who's very thrilled as well and expressing his joy in a different manner. Thank you.
Feel free to put him on, put the baby on your lap. We're okay with that. And Sana?
Hi, I'm Sana. I also have a baby, but he's sleeping right now. Otherwise, I would totally show him off.
Oh, that would be nice. I love babies.
He's only 4 months old. I'm a producer on Amy Victoria, and it was such a wonderful time working on that. And I'm so excited to see it getting out and about into festivals and being seen. That's what we all want. And I do sales for a film distribution company called 1091 Pictures.
Oh, nice. I've heard of them. Great. That's nice. And Fabia?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Fabia, like Arabia.
Oh, Fabia.
Yeah, just kind of come up with that to try and make it simple. So I am coming from London, and I'm the director on Cotti, which is a short film based on a true story in Berlin about the Berlin housing crisis. Yeah, I mean, it was, I'm sure as all of you probably feel, it's amazing to actually have made something recently and to have done that at a time when it's been very difficult for all of us. So yeah, just excited to be part of this.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, everyone. And if you could just tell us a little bit about your film, just give us a brief description, whoever wants to jump in.
Should I just come off the back?
Oh, that's great. Go right in.
Yeah, so Cotti is based on a true story about the kind of housing crisis in Berlin. It's centered around a housing estate where the private landlord kept putting up the rents. And so the tenants in the building came together and protested against this. And this is in a really eclectic area of Berlin. So there was all sorts of people, you know, sort of Muslim immigrants, sex workers, very like much working class people of the city. And they came together and somehow managed to get past language barriers and political barriers and all the rest of it. And they built a roadblock in protest, and eventually their protests sort of ended in changing German housing legislation. So yeah, it's focused on two women and their initial contact in their protest hut.
Oh, great. And how did you find the subjects, the individuals, you know, how did you go about casting?
So what happened was, well, in terms of the story, so I developed it with the writer, and we heard a podcast, and Johan Hari, the journalist, has actually written a book, and he mentioned this story. So we decided to look into it and essentially like came up with, there were two characters that he mentioned. He mentioned lots of characters, really fascinating, different types of people who are living in this building. but he mentioned two women, one who was an elderly Muslim immigrant and a disabled woman, and one who was a young kind of punk who was sort of German British. So
I'm sorry. Can I just interrupt you for a second? I think I hear some noise in the background. No? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so is that okay?
Yes, that's good.
Right. So we sort of like amalgamated the truth and then obviously created some fiction, and thought that these two women would make a really powerful sort of narrative, and something that you wouldn't sort of normally see, and they kind of encapsulated the kind of the difference between some of these people who were sort of finding a common ground in their sort of common struggle, essentially. So yeah, that's how we sort of went about sort of finding those characters and then finding the actual actors. One of them, Emma Appleton, she is someone that I've sort of admired as an actress, but also she is represented by a friend of mine at 42. And so I spoke to her. And then Emma read the script and was really interested. And Anna Sava, who plays the older lady, she came to us through casting directors, and immediately I saw her and I just thought she's amazing. And I'd actually seen her on a BBC show called The Durrells, based on My Family and Other Animals, Gerald Durrell's novels. And she was fantastic in that. So I knew she had like loads of spirit to her, and she was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you. And let's see, we'll go with someone from Ami Victoria, maybe the writer, the producer.
Sure. Do you want me to? Okay, guys, I'll pick this one up. So we created this film originally as part of a short form series. So what happened was or for me personally, I was in development on a feature, and then lockdown happened in 2020, and wanted to find a way to keep creating and making stuff even though everything was shutting down. And so I partnered with Sana, who's a friend of mine, although we didn't know each other that well at the time, actually, as it happens, but I thought she'd be a great person on it. So we partnered together to sort of EP and showrun this series, and one of the episodes was Amy Victoria, which ended up being so popular that we decided to recut it as a feature film. So we adjusted it slightly into its structure and then issued it in that way. The series and the film were made entirely remotely. So this was during lockdown when everyone was disinfecting their groceries at the front door and everything. Nobody could go out and see anybody. So we came up with, and greater minds than I, paneled together people from, I think we had about 26, 28 countries, 28 cities around the world, 8 countries, people from all around them, did it all through video conferencing, through email, through WhatsApp and things. We did all the writing, did all the directing, the DP camera work, everything was all directed remotely. And we managed to get this incredible group of people who jumped in, made it work. We sent an iPhone. To be clear, we sent my wife's iPhone, actually, because she was extremely patient with this whole process. And we sent my wife's iPhone, a small set of tripods and a mic and a softbox light round to each actor in turn. Each actor sterilized it, put it in the trunk of an Uber or a Lyft, which sent it to the next one who took it out and sterilized it, and so on. So, and each actor brought in one person from their quarantine bubble to act as a camera operator. So it would be their partner, their friend, cousin, whoever it is, one person within that they're in. So that's how we shot it. That's how we made it. We did it entirely in that way. And it was a remarkable challenge and a unique thing. And the story itself is about 2 profoundly deaf women of color who are in a relationship. They're in love and they're approaching their first anniversary, and they're kind of kept apart it's not really about the pandemic, but they're kept apart by a pandemic at the time. And then they have other communication issues between the 2 of them. And it ends up, it's quite a nice love story, which just really came together as something quite beautiful. I think I'm really pleased with how it emerged and how it did so, which is full credit to my co-writer Hannah Harmison, to the brilliant work of Christy and the actors and everyone that was involved in it. Yeah, that's the basic story behind it, and that's how we developed it and put it together. So for us, it was something when we were shooting it, it was totally new ground. No one had ever filmed anything in this way with these kind of video relay systems and doing screen mirroring from an iPhone to their iPad, which then was used onto a Google Meet, which we used because we have deaf actors in it. We had closed captioning. It was all unknown. We didn't even know if we could make it. So to have it here and to have it represented at a festival like this is really an honor for us. So we're very pleased.
Wow, that's amazing. And you know, the way you guys were able to adapt to COVID and continue to film. And I wanted to ask you guys, how did you guys find the actors?
So we went, I mean, Sana, I can take this one, or do you want to talk to this?
No, you can take it. I just had it on just in case.
Sure. So, so Sana, and by the way, ladies, interrupt me at any time when I say everything wrong or get it out.
Well, the only thing I was going to add is
good.
across the series, we had 76 or 77 people all together around the world in the end. So it ended up being quite a big group.
Oh, wow.
We did,
That's
absolutely.
amazing.
And we had, yeah, in terms of the casting, this is something that I've been saying to people, and I'm pushing for it really hard ever since we did it. People, I think there is a block amongst producers about using people from disabled backgrounds or different things, because they think there's going to be challenges to finding the right talent or the accommodations. To be clear, we were able to find two really incredible actors who were prepared to shoot in their homes using an iPhone, getting directed over this thing, and we were able to still get those. So for anyone, when you have an actual budget and things, it's not hard to find it. The actors, we went through an agency, and I've forgotten which agent it is. There's a particularly well-known agency in Hollywood who represent a lot of disabled actors. They proposed some people to us. It was very important to us as part of the development for it that where we were using people of color and people from the sort of as standard, quote unquote, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but in the sort of the Hollywood manner of it, backgrounds. And so we found Natasha Offaly and Stephanie DeGueris, both brilliant. Natasha has been on Netflix's The Politician. She's in the Marvel Universe through Spider-Man, Miles Morales. She's done a ton of stuff. Stephanie DeGueris has been in Grimm. She's had recurring appearances on The Good Fight. You know, these are top-notch actors. Yeah, I mean, they're top-notch actors. They're absolutely brilliant, and they were a joy to work with. I know Christy and Sana can speak to that more, but they were fantastic. It was honestly, casting these guys was probably the easiest part of the whole process as it happens.
Oh, I'm sure. And I wanted to ask you, Christy, you're an actress, and then you directed this film, this project. What was that like transitioning?
You know, it was interesting because Mikhail, kept pushing for me to direct. And I was like, well, I've only done stage, so I'm going to send you all these other people who are directors who like do television. And so I thought maybe if I did that, he wouldn't hire me, but he was insistent, which I'm very thankful for. But it was something for me that it comes really naturally because I'm an actor's director, which, other people here that are on this panel, they're also actors. And so I think we know how to communicate. Not everybody does, but I do feel like we know how to communicate. It was more of a challenge though, because my two actresses were deaf, and there was a little bit of a fear because I was like, wow, how do I communicate via Zoom? And the barrier that you have. But what I love about the whole experience and what it did for me was that it made me very present, and it made sure that I wasn't talking over someone's head, but that I was making sure that I was getting across what I needed. Because how do you tell an actor, hey, I want you to have this, and I want it to feel like this, and I want this in your body. Like, how do you communicate that if you can't communicate verbally, which is how we normally would communicate? So I had to show her in different ways. And the biggest joy, and, I haven't felt this joy since maybe the first time I ever booked my very first TV show, my very first series. It was a joy to hear from the actress, wow, this is my best work, So yeah, it was an experience, but I would gladly do it again. And I'm just so grateful for the both of them for giving me the opportunity for believing in me. And, they never even see me direct. They're just like, we just know you can do it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Did you want to add anything, Sana?
Yeah, I wasn't always there for production, which was all like this anyway. But the simple fact that this team, across the series, but of course this applies very much to Amy Victoria, which obviously we believe is the best episode, and very much worthy of its own standalone status as a short film. It was remarkable watching so many people around the world come together to work together on deferred fees to make it happen in terms of scheduling. So for this film specifically, it was checking if the actors were available for a quick rehearsal for sound and video rehearsals before production, then making sure they were around at the time we wanted to send them the camera, then making sure that they had everything they needed ready to go, and captions were working and everything so that we could communicate the best we can. All the tech had to be set up in order for the actual work to get done, and having to do things on the fly as well. I remember we couldn't do the rocks we had planned to do. So, oh no, sorry, we couldn't do we had a laser pen that we wanted to do. So getting everyone together, suddenly put their heads together and saying, how can we replace this with something different? And of course, Christy had the best idea. And in the end, that is what saved us, in terms of that scene, and we just went ahead with it. And watch just that scene for us, if you've seen the short, where Natasha's character does her poetry, her ASL poetry. Just the first time I saw that, I think
that was beautiful.
The feeling was, it was so deep, and I was like, I can't believe I had the privilege of working on this. And these ladies are just beautiful, and their relationship is beautiful. And I could feel it because we've all had this during the pandemic where we couldn't see each other. So again, to see the recognition it's getting is wonderful.
I just want to add before we jump to someone else, because I would love to hear about My Eyes and their her story. I just want to add that these actresses, for the whole series, in general, but for these two actresses, they not only had to be the actors, but they really kind of had to be like the sound and the lighting, and you know what I mean? Like they had to really do it all. And I believe some actresses or actors can't handle that. They're so used to just focusing on that one thing. But you really had to multitask when we did this, because we were, they had to be everything, and we were just guiding them, through the process. So it was interesting and a challenge.
Oh, thank you for sharing that with us. And Shira, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's an Israeli name. It's the meaning is poetry.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. So to tell you about my film, My Eyes, it takes place in a very unique period in Israel. It's always a unique period in Israel, but this was very special. It was during the summer of 2011, and it was a big protest in Israel, and people it was against the cost of living. And people, mostly young people, just left their rented apartments, and they went out to the Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv, which is in the center of Tel Aviv. It's a very nice boulevard. And they just put up tents, and they were living there for weeks. And every night there were more and more people moving there, and it's extended out of Tel Aviv, of course. And anyway, this is the set of my film that deals actually with women aging. And this protest was kind of, in my opinion, very childish, because it started with a big bang, and then it just died, because in my opinion they didn't take any political steps, and it was very innocent. And I felt like my character, the main character Lee, she's 45, and she's leaving her apartment, and she puts up a tent in the middle of the boulevard where all the young people are, and she just forget her. I mean, she doesn't want to feel her age, and she's trying to run away from her age. So she lives in this protest, and then the film starts when her daughter comes and asks her to come back home, or else she will move to her father. Mm. And for the character Lee, it's really something she doesn't want to happen, and she's all this day, because it deals with one day in her life in this protest, when she's going with her want to be young again and to protest and to be a hippie kind of a person, and her responsibility to be a mother and go back home and, you know, pay the bills, and just the mother character that I think she really afraid of be like her mother. So it's also something she's really trying to run away. And so that's the story.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And I noticed that you're also you starred in the film, you directed, and you also produced and wrote the film as well. How was that like? And did you find anything challenging about it?
Yeah, everything was challenging. It was, I studied in Tel Aviv University in the Teach School of Film, and it was, I wrote it during my, it was the second year, and I knew I will direct it. And it was for me a chance to take a part and to give myself the part of lead that I really like this person. And I felt, and I do feel like her. And I felt like I don't see much in films that they are dealing with aging, with these issues that I'm dealing with. So it was very challenging to act and direct in the same time in my first short film.
Wow.
But I had a great cast with me that I could really lean on them, and I had a great team, and they helped me to do that.
I want to ask you, being that you're in another country and you're not, I guess, in Hollywood, what is the difference and challenges there? That, you know, what you see here going on here?
First, money. Money is the big problem. Yeah. Because in Israel, you do every year, if there are 15 features, it's a lot. So it's really challenging to make a film. It was easy for me. Well, actually, I went to the Tel Aviv University to the school for the second time. I mean, this was my second degree because I wanted to do this film. Then I did another two documentary short films, but to be in the university, it's, you know, you have you can have the money to make the film. So I think that money is the first thing that it's really different from the industry in Israel. It's so small, and but you know, we have a lot of issues to deal with. So you have maybe many ideas for scripts and for films.
Okay, we have another question. Let me see here. Is it more challenging being a woman director as well? Thank you, Christy, for asking.
Yes. I feel like today, I mean, every day it's more and more not difficult. I won't say easy, but listen, when I was younger, and I had also very young. My daughter was very young, and all the responsibility was on me. It was really hard. So I finished my first degree after I made television series as a director, and I came home, and I had just to work as an actress because I couldn't direct. I couldn't go out for long days, and so as a woman mother, it was very difficult. I hope the whole situation of us women is changing now, and I hope it will be equal and just difficult as directors and not as women.
Thank you. And Fabia, I have to ask, your film is more like social injustices, people having difficulty paying their rent, but then you also put a little comedy in it. What was the reason for that?
So I've done quite a bit of comedy in the past, short form stuff, and I think often like harder subjects to get into can be they're heightened, or they're easier to sort of digest for most people, and they're a bit more sort of accessible if you add a bit of comedy. I also think there's humor to be found sometimes in the darkest of places, and that's not to sort of make light of difficulties, but fundamentally one of the great things about being a human is that we can connect with one another, and that we can laugh at each other and laugh at ourselves. And so I kind of thought that it was important to sort of have that, and to pull that out, particularly between these very, like I said, these very different women who've had very different experiences of life, who on paper wouldn't get on at all. But actually sort of being able to sort of lightly rib one another, and sort of for the audience as well to kind of be in on that, I think helps bond the story and the narrative together, as well as the characters.
And thank you. And I just want to ask you guys, how did you guys get the concept to make your film, and what the process was like as well?
Was that for me?
Forever you can go.
Well, I kind of touched on it earlier. So it is based on a true story. So it's essentially sort of, I guess, an adaptation. And initially, my background's in documentary, and this was actually my first short that I directed. I've done another one since, and yeah, it's just, I think sometimes there are just those stories that you hear about and you just can't resist. That, and because this particular story sort of has happened in the past, there's a bit of documentation around it, but fundamentally, like, I think there's a lot that can be done with turning that into a short. And actually the idea, funnily enough, was also to do a sort of potentially a serialized short series. And so to focus on a couple of characters in that one space, their protest hut, and kind of do a few of those. We've only done the one so far. Once we realized how hard it was to raise the money, I think one was enough for now. But yeah, that's where it came from. So true story, and then sort of adapted.
Okay, thank you. And Shira?
Okay. So in this film, it was not just in this film, actually. Many times I just think about a situation, and the situation of this film was just that I thought about a tent in the boulevard, and that daughter comes to her mother and say, you have to pay the bills, come home. And the situation that you start to see the film and you don't know where it is. And then you see it's a tent and in a boulevard and a lot of people. And that was the first picture that I had. And then my issues, I put them in this concept.
It's kind of a unique film too, as well. You know, having a mother, she's part of a protest. I've been to protests myself, but I never like thought about camping out, you know, to be so involved, emotionally involved, and staying at the protest overnight.
Right, but in Israel, many people were in those tents. It was a huge, really huge protest. But young people, that's it. There were no really people in my age.
And how about the team from Ami Victoria? If you guys could share that with us.
Shall I say that? Sure. First of all, by the way, can I just say this is amazing because that means there are 3 debut narrative directors on the course. Congratulations to all of you guys. That's absolutely fantastic.
Yes, congrats.
Stuff. Huge jump to get. I look forward to telling people one day that I was on a call with all of you guys, and nobody will believe me because you're all so famous, and they'll be like, "Nah, you didn't meet them. There's no way." So on the concept frame, Victoria. So the series originally, like I said, it started as a series concept, and the series concept was about 6 characters who were connected through friendships and other relationships, and each episode focused on a singular character. And I very much had to develop the concept at the very base level with the practicality in mind. How do we shoot this? How are we going to do this? How do we actually get the equipment out to people and stuff like that? So that's where I initially started with sort of individual stories, and working with Sana, then we put together an idea that each of the episodes would have a slightly different theme to it. So Amy Victoria as an episode was a romantic episode. There's one episode that's a kind of thriller. There's one episode that's a sort of elevated horror. There's one that's a comedy. So that was sort of the romantic episode that we had. Amy, and it's one of those things when you create a character, you come up with them. I always believe firmly in trying to push diversity where you can, and I'm very interested in underrepresented communities, not for tokenistic reasons, but simply because we've seen a lot of a particular type of story over and over again in multiple different ways. So for me, it's just more interesting to think about, can you tell a story about somebody you haven't seen that much in a different perspective? And that's how Amy evolved as being deaf. And it seemed to be very natural at the time, and it was great to be able to see, because especially the series was about communication, and we're making it at a time when none of us are able to see each other in person, so that all influenced the notion behind it. So Sana and I kind of developed that as the series concept. In terms of the film, the fact that she and then Victoria emerged as being deaf, and that they are lesbians in that relationship, again, it was just very natural. It wasn't a deliberate choice. It came together and it happened to be. And then when I sort of handed over the concept and the story and what I'd done to Hannah Harmison, who's the other writer, who's a brilliantly talented writer. She's fantastic, and she knows quite a few deaf people, and actually is semi-fluent in ASL, American Sign Language, and she then just made it awesome. So essentially, I kind of came up with some broad idea. Sana actually made it really cool, and then we gave it to Hannah, and she actually made it wicked on page. So I seem to be getting a lot of credit, but in fact, I should take very little of the credit for actually what was done from that.
I'm not taking any credit for the concept of the characters and their relationships and kind of how their stories do come together. So that's all on you, Mikhail. But Hannah did, drawing on a lot of personal experience and on her queer background and her background with sign language, as Mikhail said, she was able to put together this absolutely beautiful story. I think when we first read that short script, we were just blown away. We all, I think, a little bit teary at the end. We were like, this is the cutest one. This is super sweet. And it was so hopeful and happy. So, spoiler alert, it's a happy story. So that's kind of the idea of it. So we just really wanted smart, good, original ideas to shoot. And this was clearly one of them.
And I just wanted to add a little segue, but when Mikhail had mentioned about all of us being, directors and the women directors and so forth, because I had never directed for film, that type of thing, film, TV, I literally just called all of my friends who were big time directors and was like, okay, how does this work? And how do I communicate? And how do I make sure I don't give up too much control, but still allow the DP to do his work and make everybody feel like they are a part of and not just me dictating. And so I prided myself, and I always pride myself that when I'm working and directing, that I make sure everybody feels a part of. Because there's a lot of directors I've worked with who were just not the nicest people. It was just da 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 da, and I never want to be that person. And again, getting all these ideas from all these other directors, it made me more prepared. And that was the thing I believe that I did. I remember Mikhail was like, wow, you created like a storyboard. And like I had pictures of all the shots that I wanted. Some of them might have been a little unrealistic, but I was like, I want this and this and this, and it was just a fun process. And I think when you step out of your comfort zone and you believe in yourself, as well as allowing other people to believe in you, you get something as beautiful as this, and it being loved by the community and being accepted into 20, different film festivals. And so my thing is, I say all that to say, for all those people that are out there that want to do the same thing, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to do it and just make it work and find a team around you to make sure that it goes in the right direction, because you can't do it by yourself.
Exactly. That is so true. Thanks for sharing that very important information for filmmakers. I want to ask you guys, what was the reception? How did people, the feedback that you guys received from the film? Fabia, if you can jump right in and tell us what that was like.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, very initially, obviously through our, sending it out to even crew up. So like that sort of early stage, sending out the script and things. We were really surprised actually by just how positive all the feedback was. I think, yeah, sort of slightly different characters and sort of female first, and the comedy, I think, as well, really sort of helped. So that really helped with our casting and with getting the crew on board that we wanted. And Oriane, who's the producer on this, has a company called Candid Broads, and they are a production company who champion women. So it was actually, I think it was, maybe not all female, but it was definitely like 98% female crew and cast, which is pretty exceptional actually. And it was quite an interesting experience. Certainly a new one for me. And yeah, it's been since we've made it, it's been, I mean, really, really well received. We've got into a number of festivals, which is fantastic. And yeah, I mean, everybody we've shown it to so far has been, really bowled away. I think by also like its originality, because it's almost like a vignette, as opposed to like, it's kind of like a sort of a dip into a world. And it has quite a lot of layers, I think, because of its sort of factual basis. So yeah, I think it's really exciting. And I think for me, I mean, back to sort of Christy, like talking about shorts for anyone who might be listening, in terms of like just throwing yourself into it. I've been deliberating for years now, sort of working in docs, wanting to do it. How can I make the money? How can blah, blah. And you just got to trust yourself, your instincts. It's not you who actually makes the film. It is everyone around you. So if you find really fantastic people and you can communicate your idea or vision to them, then suddenly everything falls into place. And it's not easy, but yeah, it's unbelievably rewarding. So and I think that, along with this other short I've done and some writing, like has secured me an agent, which is great. And things for me in the narrative world are sort of opening up because of this. So it's been an amazing journey.
And what about you, Shira?
Huh?
Oh, the sound.
Okay, now you can hear me.
Okay, great.
Okay, so it really received well in Israel, and it was also unique because there were no films about this protest, and Actually, we didn't allow to shoot in the real place, in the Rothschild Boulevard. So we shot in a park in Tel Aviv. And we made all this set looks like the really protest of 2011. It was 2 years ago. And, you know, people passed in this park and they were shocked, like, oh, it started again. We didn't know. And then they were, and no, it's a film. And then they felt like a deja vu, you know, because I had a really amazing art. And it's really looked like same like that. It was in 2011. And I don't know, maybe you know this, but you know, everything, the way, the dress, the set, everything. So, and anyway, in Israel, they really received it nice. And also, we don't have many films about women, no, not really aging women, no film about the aging problem. And in this way anyway. And also many festivals, I mean, I want more and more. So I hope we'll have a great way in festivals. And yeah, so it's nice.
I have another question for you. Did you get any of people that were protesting?
Sorry, I didn't hear it, half of your question.
Did you receive any pushback about the film, about people that didn't agree with the protesting that went on?
Not really, no. The process was, it was about the cost of living, and actually nothing happened. Today, the cost of living is much more, everything went higher and higher. And the name cottage cheese of the protest, the cottage is the only thing that got down for 2 months, maybe 3 months, and then up again. It started because people noticed that when they are abroad, the same cottage cheese cost them half than in their place in Israel. And it's ended like cottage, you know, that's it. So not from the protest, it's something that really died.
Okay, thank you. And Christy, what about you? How has the reception been after people watch the film?
Well, you know,
especially in that community as well.
Right. Wow. I have no idea who's at my door. Could you hold?
You can come back. Okay.
Would you like me to say something to that for a second? Well,
Mikhail?
just
she's
I
back.
don't know. Oh no, Christy's back. Thank goodness, Christy's back. Yeah.
To be honest, I can't really answer the question that much because this is the first time that's really starting to screen for people to see it. So we've only had feedback from the inside crew of Mikhail and Sana, you know what I mean? So they would be able to speak to it a little bit more. But as far as I've heard, which is why they made it a standalone film, everybody seems to gravitate towards this particular episode that we did. That's why we made it a standalone. So, but it's just now starting to air to the world. I know it played in Hong Kong, but I know your film festival is one of the first.
Oh, nice. We're happy about that.
Yeah. So I'm, again, I'm super excited, and to be with the rest of these ladies and Mikhail, it's wonderful to share it. Yeah.
Yes. So if you guys can tell us if you're working on any new projects or what projects you want to work on, and also share your social media handles so that you guys can connect and then have audiences follow your work, your career, your journey, that would be great. And who wants to go first? Christy?
I can go.
Jump in. Go on, Christy, do it.
Oh, okay. I have a show, this right here.
Yes.
It's called Craig Ross Jr.'s Monogamy. It airs on, I know. I have all my little posters from all my different.
Oh, nice. Marketing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a reminder, like when you get to those moments when you feel like, oh my God, I suck. Am I ever going to make it? Then you could just kind of your inspiration of like the work, your past work.
Yeah. And you have to celebrate yourself as well. You know,
you really do.
Yes.
It's important because as we all know in this business, it goes up and down. And 1 minute things are great and you're working, and the next minute you're going, what is happening? And so I've always found that you have to have multiple streams of income. Like I do voiceovers, now I'm directing, and then of course there's on camera, and there's so many different things. But I do have this production. I don't think you can get it in Israel, and I have been there. I love Israel. You can
send it to Israel. Send it to me.
I know. I'll send it directly. But I have another show that's called Goliath. It was the last season. I know the new season just aired. And then for, future stuff, I'm tapping more into the voiceover world, which is beautiful. I have another project that I'm executive producing, which is called Mercer Island. And so that's over at a couple of amazing things. I have a show that I do called Black People Shit, where I talk about what's trending in the Black community, the things that people should be talking about but are too afraid to talk about, which is a little funny and serious all at the same time. So I have my hats in a lot of different things, and that's how I keep going, is because I have a lot of things that are happening. And then of course I'll be doing some more stuff with Mikhail and Sana and all that kind of stuff. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And if people want to follow you?
It's just my name. I also have my one-woman show that is.
Oh wow, you're very busy.
Yeah, that I'll be doing again starting in I think it's January, February of next year. It'll be online, which would be great.
Oh, nice.
But you can just follow me at Christy Ferris, which is Instagram and Facebook. Just
great. Who's next?
So I'll follow Christy because I have also a monodrama, a one-woman show. I have it for many years, for 8 years.
Nice.
And it's about her name is Leah Goldberg. She was a very famous poetry in Israel in the 50s, 60s, and it's about her. I'm acting her in her life, and since this film, which was my first film, I did 2 shorts film. One was in the Israeli television, Channel 8. The Prestige Channel 8, and it was about a parliament of women that they are 89 years old. Now they are 91, but one just passed last week. So it's about this parliament that they are every week they are meeting in a coffee shop, and for 80 years. Since they were in high school. So this is one short film documentary, and the other one called Nico the Dreamer, and it's about Nico Nitai, who was also a very famous director and actor in Israel, and he has an ensemble group, a theater, and I'm part of this ensemble. And actually, I filmed this. I mean, this film took me like 5 years that I just shoot Nico and the ensemble and everything. And then during the COVID, the corona, he just died, not from corona. He was also 89 years old, and he passed away. So when we were in lockdown, I just figured that I have to finish my film because it's not about, it's about a living person. So I edited the film during the first lockdown, and it was in Dok Aviv, which is the documentary film festival in Israel. And now I hope it will be in other festivals. So I'm keep going as in my acting career, mostly in theater. And I hope I'll do my next film shortly.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank
Who
you.
wants to go next?
Yeah, I can jump in. So have this second short, which I wrote and directed, which is a queer comedy about a vicar in the middle of an identity crisis in Dorset, in rural England. That is currently doing festivals and is has been selected by the BFI. It was sponsored by the BFI. And so they've selected it as one of its films to be shown at the London Film Festival. So
Congrats.
That's exciting. Thanks. So that is also doing festivals at the moment and bits and bobs. And then I am writing my first feature, which is a coming of age story about two foster sisters. And then I am currently have just started working on a film. I'm writing the script and directing a film for
Hi.
baby. Sweet. I am also doing a film for Unilever at the moment for COP26. So that's in about 5 weeks or something very soon. And they want a 7-minute film about nature regeneration and protecting nature. So that's kind of a lot of my day job is doing sort of commercials or documentary style stuff for brands. Oh my gosh, I cannot concentrate with that little face. Anyway, nothing nearly as exciting as that. Child, so.
These are like mom.
The future generation of filmmakers.
Yes.
So that's basically me, keeping me busy at the moment. And you can find me at Fabia Martin on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere.
Okay, great. And Sharon, did you share your social media handle or website where we can find you?
Yeah, sure. I'm in Instagram, Shira Farber, my name, and also in Facebook. Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you. And Sana, and if you could also tell the baby to tell us if he has anything in the future.
He's working very hard, as you can see.
Oh, so he's busy.
He's very busy. I can't get in the way of his work.
He's writing a screenplay, right?
He's busy writing a screenplay. Well, his dad is a writer, so I wouldn't be far off. I mostly am a distributor, so that's where I work. Again, currently at 1091 Pictures in the sales team. But I've always loved producing, clearly, and I am just sometimes on the side looking at projects that I could somehow get involved in, either find investment or connect to good directors or connect to good writers, providing lots of feedback on decks, on scripts, and ideas in general, and most of all, providing ideas and connections for distribution. So that's a lot of what I do. In addition to taking care of this guy, his name is Dahan. He's almost 4 months, and I don't, since I'm not like a creative, I don't really have a social media presence that I'd like to push. But on Twitter, I'm LAX2LHR, LAXTOLHR, and I'm mostly on LinkedIn. Is my social media.
Thank you. And last but not least.
Hi. So I'm I've currently got 2 shorts that I produced, which are on the festival circuit. One of them was premiered at Outfest LA, and it was created by a transgender and LGBTQIA team that we managed to work with, which was fantastic. I've got another film which is going to be at the New Orleans Film Festival coming up in November, which again we made with a minority ethnic group, and it's about asylum seekers and DACA in the US. And I've just finished another film with Natasha Oakley. It was a privilege to work with her again. She invited me to come on and produce and then co-direct a film that she has done, which we did with a majority deaf cast and crew, which we shot in LA earlier this year. We're just submitting to festivals now. Susie, we may we may reach out to you at some point if that's okay.
Yes,
And
please
then
do.
for that one.
Absolutely.
And we're very, very fortunate to have I've been invited by the BFI in
Nice.
London to screen Amy Victoria and also the new film they've done in
Oh,
December
congratulations
with a
on
Q&A.
that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's going to be on as part of their Busting the Bias event, which is about trying to increase the level of disabilities and people with
Which is very
disabilities,
important.
prevalence of it in film, which is great. Yeah, and then I'm back onto the feature stuff that I was developing before. So I've got there's a feature that I had a table read right before lockdown. We have some initial investment for it. As the ladies will know, it is very difficult to get funding for a film, but we've got a bit of a good start. So building onto that one, I may also have an outline and already reached out to the writer for Amy Victoria about doing a feature version of the film. So that is something we're going to try and do. Christy and Sana, I'm going to rope you guys into it somehow, I'm sure.
Wow, you guys are like really amazing, and everyone is so busy. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us and sharing your stories, your work with us. And we look forward to seeing more work from you all, and have a great day. And again, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure having you all.
And I followed you ladies. I'm following you guys. So
Me too.
Oh, we have to follow you guys.
I was like, let me get it now.
Yes.